Welcome to this lecture video on ESGs and Sustainable Development Goals. A very important term that is floating around the corporate world, academia, policymaking is ESG, Environmental, Social and Governance. This is a very general term. When we think about ESGs, there are different aspects related to each and every term. Environmental, that deals with issues relating to climate change, resource depletion, waste, pollution, deforestation. And when we think about the social, we're talking about human rights, issues relating to modern day slavery, child labor, working conditions, employee relations. And when we think about governance, we're thinking about the overall structure of how decisions are made in organizations, things relating to executive pay, corruption, bribery, issues relating to board membership, inclusion, diversification. So ESGs is a term, a general term. And yes, I've mentioned a number of issues that could come under ESGs, but there could be other things that can be included as well. We need to make a distinction between the environmental, social and governance term and then another term which is also floating around, and that is Sustainability Development Goals. And Sustainability Development Goals, or SDGs, are the world's suggested 17 Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations, and literally are something that we should look to achieve by the year 2030. They appear to be goals that will formulate a best plan to build a better world for people and our planet by 2030. The UN Sustainability Development Goals, they can be seen as a call for action by all countries, poor, rich and middle income, to promote prosperity while protecting the environment. The UN Sustainability Goals recognize that ending poverty must go hand in hand with strategies that build economic growth and address a range of social needs while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. These goals are 17, as I said, and they range from a goal to have zero poverty, a goal that relates to education, to healthcare, gender equality, goals that relates to the environment and how we can be good to our water, and a goal that will be about peace, about justice. So there are 17 of these goals, and that's very important to understand as a guideline, as a framework of thinking, to try and get organizations to start thinking about what needs to be achieved. These 17 goals can be further grouped into what we would call 5 categories. There are certain goals that relate to the people. And when we think about ending poverty, ending hunger, having income for people generated because of work, because of their contribution to the society. When we think about the planet is another category. There are certain goals that will help us achieve, literally, issues relating to tackling climate change and the water that we have and the soil and so on. We have goals that relate to prosperity, and that is how do we achieve economic growth, creating jobs, creating income. And what are the issues relating to creating growth, creating income, creating employment, reducing unemployment, have stable prices. And there are goals relating to peace and justice and avoiding conflict. And all of these things have to be done in the spirit of partnership, where everybody has to be involved in that. So the 17 SDGs could in fact be reduced to 5 categories, where some of these categories will inevitably overlap in the categories that I've just mentioned: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. There's sometimes confusion about the two terms, ESG and SDG. ESGs literally relate to 3 things: the environmental, societal, and governance. And they are general. So we talk about the environment in general terms. We talk about the society in general terms, and we think about the governance in general terms. But when we go to the SDGs become very specific. So in other words, there are SDGs that relate to the environment, or Sustainable Development Goals relating to the environment. There are SDGs that relate to society, and there are SDGs that relate to governance. So literally, a movement from the ESG to the SDG and back, it is fine, because one is general, the other one becomes very specific. So it is very important to identify that ESG and SDGs are terms that are being thought of, identified as targets to achieve by many stakeholders in our society and in our economy, such as consumers, academic institutions, enterprises, policymakers, financial institutions and investors, non-for-profit organizations, and also social impact enterprises. All of these players, all of these decision makers, and they're the ones who are making decisions that impact our environment, our society, and our economy, are all thinking about these two terms, ESGs and SDGs.